Hi everyone. It's getting crazy out there, and I've really put a lot of stuff together here to help you understand the religious context, the sky, how it's reading, and why it's so important this year of all the truth coming out and what's going on with Diddy and how this is all kind of being a pre-scripted storyline. And I want to focus on the election. I also want to focus on the importance of the religious context that's going through everything. So let's look at November 5th, first of all. Okay, this is a very, very important day, and I'll get into why this date is so important for the election. Usually it's held on November 3rd, but because that's on a weekend or a Friday, they didn't do that. So um, November 5th is a very, very important date in history. Remember the 5th of November, and I'll get into why that is so important. That's an old poem. Okay, so now the sun is in Libra, which is justice, right? In the tarot cards, the moon is in the Golden Gate, right at the arrow of Sagittarius. Sagittarius rules the ninth house. And this part of the sky is very important because the Milky Way is crossing the ecliptic, right? So where the planets travel. So um, Mercury is in Scorpio, so everything that's hidden will come out, because Mercury, it rules communication and also the mind. So let's go to the next slide here. And we can see where Pluto is. Pluto is now in the same location. It's done its one orbit since the founding of the United States. It's just on the edge of Capricorn, which is all to do with being responsible, right? And also developing your own power is with Capricorn, because Capricorn wants you to work hard and he wants you to be very responsible. And this is later in the day, the moon starts to come right along the arrow here. Okay, it's not actually on the ecliptic, it's a little bit below. So that's very important. And it's a new moon. So this is a beginning of a beginning. It's a seed. You're planting the seed in the ground on the new moon. So Osiris is in conjunction with Pluto. Of course, Osiris is has his 14 pieces of his body scattered all over Egypt, and Isis finds them all except the phalanx, and she has to make a golden phalanx to have his son Horus. So it's kind of like the Virgin Mary story prior to Christianity. And Osiris is born again, right? So this is all tied to your soul because Pluto rules your dark night of your soul, in a way. He makes you go through your fear and try to find your own power. So with Osiris there, that's very, very important. Now, here we have Jupiter. Jupiter, because we're in the year of Jupiter right now, because of the Olympics was all tied to Jupiter, and in Paris they worship Jupiter in antiquity, and he's in the Silver Gate, which is your third eye. Okay, you have the lateral ventricles in your head, which is behind your third eye, and Jupiter is there. So he brings the higher mind and your spirituality because he helps rule the 12th house, which is your spiritual psyche. And he also rules the higher mind in the ninth house. And Uranus is just on the Pleiades, okay? And this is where he was during the founding of the United States, and he kind of moves along through the war of the Revolution. And he gets up to this location on the Hammer of Orion when finally George Washington defeats the British. So this is very important that this is all happening now as well, with Pluto also being in the same location. So this is why we're going through all this. So Saturn right now is in Aquarius. And who is Aquarius, right? He's Ganymede. He's the cupbearer that brings the ambrosia to the gods. Okay, and Saturn is there pouring out on the ambrosia. Um, the With Saturn in Aquarius, it tends to, because Aquarius rules your house of friendships, so it kind of isolates you a bit with networking. You're kind of like a little bit on the cold side with your friendships. So things, you might not be really communicating a lot with a lot of people right now, but that's okay. It's all part of your understanding of how astrology works, right? But Saturn rules Aquarius, And so this has to tie into, you know, kind of being in isolation a little bit from your networking. He kind of puts a cold spell on your networking. So let's go into Ganymede, okay? Now, I kind of figured out who I think Ganymede is in our present day, okay? And he was a young boy that was granted eternal youth and immortality, like to become the cupbearer of the gods, right? And he's acting as Zeus's personal cupbearer. So he was given immortality for having to be able to have this role, but this ties into, you know, he was abducted, okay, and by an older lover, okay, so he basically is, you know, a child that has to perform for Zeus, and Zeus is bisexual, okay, because he had sex with women, but he also had sex with young boys. So who do we think Ganymede is? Who do I think Ganymede is? He's right here. He's right in front of you, okay? He was, in a way, um, you know, if you want to see the actors of our reality, all the famous people that sold their soul to become famous because they had to do these acts for P. Diddy, okay? And then they, you know, I guess regret it after they become famous, but they can't go back, right? They had to give up their manhood and become homosexual, and this is quite shocking, you know, what's going on. This you can kind of go through and watch all his videos of you can see what happened to him, you know, the 48-hour video where Diddy, you know, had him for 48 hours when Usher handed him over. You know, here he's at Coachella where Jaden Smith, you know, Will Smith's son, comes up and kind of bumps him from behind, and then Justin kisses him. You know, there's lots of, you know, homosexual behavior going on, and this is all part of it, right? So, you know, we know that Obama, wife, you know, we know that story of Mike, okay? So, you know, I think this is what's going on. And it's also, you know, tied to S trafficking, right? So, this is all getting exposed. Now, Diddy once dated J-Lo. Now, this dress, this iconic dress that she wore, is very, very important. Okay, it has palms all over it. And I will get into how that all ties into um, Jesus, right? Because Jesus comes into Jerusalem as he enters the city, everybody holds up palms to him. And it actually ties to the constellation of Virgo. And I'll get into that. But Diddy and J-Lo, when I listened to videos of her husband when she decided to go with Diddy, he said that all her relationships will always fail because she puts spells on men and she uses actually um, voodoo um, religion. Okay, and this religion actually makes men become gay. Okay, so it's Santeria is a female-oriented and female normative religion. Okay, and during the rituals, women can hold the highest leadership positions, although restrictions are placed on them while menstruating. Okay, so then they have similar restrictions are also placed on homosexual males, traditionally prohibiting them from taking part in certain forms of divination and ritual drumming. Many gay men are nevertheless Santeras. So, and some of Santeras are lesbians. Okay, so the whole transgender, you know, dialogue that's going on in our reality is all tied to this. Now, I listened to Diddy's bodyguard, and he also said the same thing about J-Lo, that she taught Diddy that religion. Now, why did he change his name from Puff Daddy to P. Diddy? Now, I also learned that it was Big, Notorious Big, that gave him the name Diddy. And it was because Notorious Big was a video game player. And I'll go into that Okay, because it all ties to this date that I'm fascinated with right now, okay, during September. Okay, so now ditty, the definition of it means a catchy tune, you know, you're singing a ditty, or it's an insignificant person. And Notorious Big gave him that name because of the gaming that he was playing with um, Diddy Kong. Okay, Diddy Kong, the game um, was given to him because he was insignificant, because he was trying to get his ownership back of his music from Diddy, Notorious Big, and he was in argument with him. But there's videos of him kissing Diddy's hand and rubbing up against Diddy's hand. So he was also looks like homosexual or was converted to homosexuality. So the word Diddy also means breast or nipple. Okay, so it's feminine orientated. Now, I watched somebody make a comment about the word puff in England means a gay person. So even Puff Daddy means gay father, and then P. Diddy, it also has like feminine connotations to the breast. Okay. It also goes, you know, it's all crazy. It's all scripted, right? Because Homer and The Simpsons went to a Diddy white party. You know, it's all like they know that this was going to be what was taking down the elite, not just Epstein's list, but also Diddy's list. Okay, so yeah, Super Mario Brothers created the Diddy Kong, right? And it came out on September 13th. This whole video that I'm doing is going to tie all the synchronicities about September 13th. It's mind blowing. Okay, the history of Diddy and Diddy Kong. And they have the banana. Remember the minions at the Paris Olympics? It was all about the banana. I'm pretty sure this is the phalanx, you know. Yeah, so now Justin Bieber, okay, with the Ganymede. Ganymede is actually kidnapped when in his youth by an eagle. Okay, he grabs him and brings him to Zeus. So Justin has two eagle tattoos, one on his abdomen and one on his left shoulder. Okay, and then he also has the cross, and he has the lion and the bear. This is all part of the, you know, the fixed cross symbolism. The lion being Leo, and you know, anyhow, they will just kind of look how they kind of project this into reality. It's just crazy. So somebody did a video of an eagle, supposedly a golden eagle, flies down in Montreal and grabs a baby. And then they did this you know, this kind of remake of it, and they showed it with Justin Bieber getting taken away by the eagle. So it like this, what I'm talking about is already out there. Like it comes to me, and then I go and look for it, and it's out there. So it's like for me, it's like it's almost like a joke, right? So this is actually a fake video, like it was, you know, scripted. It didn't really happen. We don't have golden eagles so much to say up in Montreal here. But yeah, they're talking about it, and they show this eagle coming in and grabbing this child. Okay, but it was, you know, it was a fake video. So um, then Ganymede gives the drink, right, to Zeus. So of course, Bieber has a coffee brew, right, with Tim Hortons. He has, you know, collaboration with Tim Hortons because that's our coffee, you know, shop in Canada. So the B brews, but this is crazy how they kind of make fun at him with the names, the flavoring, okay? Because Diddy, every time he wanted to have a white party and an after party, a freak off, he would sing happy birthday. There's tons of videos of him singing happy birthday, and that meant the party was on. Okay, so they call it the birthday cake waffle flavor that Justin Bieber has, the sour cream chocolate chip. So like white cream, you can get the sexual connotation of that, and then chocolate white fudge. You know the whole jokes about homosexuals and fudge. Okay, I'll let your imagination go with that one. Now, I went into the whole cup thing to see if there was other things about the cup and the drinking with Justin. Yeah, he cupped himself. this is, where he had the eagle before. I mean, like he cupped himself before he got the eagle tattoo. And it's kind of crazy. Why would he show pictures of himself cupping himself? And then they have him walking around with a cup in a weird position, and they took a picture of him. So the whole cup thing is a little weird. He also went to a lot of strip clubs with white styrofoam cups for the sursup. I guess it's a drink. I don't know anything about it. Monday evening, holding a tall white styrofoam cup. Monday is very important to this story as well. Okay. So yeah, and this is him. They have a video of him urinating, because I believe that the ambrosia, you know, is urine, because Orion constellation is really known as urine. Okay, that's the original wording of the Orion constellation, which is where the sun is on John Baptiste Day, the summer solstice. Okay, in the sky. So here, a video surfaced again of Bieber urinating into a mop bucket. So they're always talking about him urinating. And then he then proceeded to spray a bottle of cleaner on a picture of former President Bill Clinton and yelled, F Bill Clinton. He was 19 at the time. Okay, so it's the 19 ties to the moon cycles and also to Jesus, right? Now, why is this roasting of Trump? This was at a congressional dinner where Donald Trump was in the audience and Obama roasted him. And he mentioned all the rappers, okay, of Tupac and Biggie. Now you have to, I went on this rabbit hole because I didn't know anything about all this, okay? So Tupac and Diddy were friends. They had a big breakup, I guess, when he found out that he was, doing S trafficking. And so then Notorious Big was also friends with Tupac, but then he went with Diddy. So there's all this like hatred of, because Tupac didn't like that kids were involved. And he has that in his lyrics and some of his songs. Now, Obama mentions this about Tupac and Biggie when he's making fun of Trump. So this is like, I had watched this video a long time ago, but I didn't understand what all that meant, right? So now as things are coming forth, it's like, oh, well, that's what it meant, like this is crazy. So he starts to make fun about his birther movement because at this time Trump was saying that he didn't have a birth certificate, right? So he's making fun. He's saying Hawaii released, my birth certificate. It's the long format, and there's a movie that goes along with it. And he proceeds to play the Circle of Life with the Lion King, where he's the king being born, Obama, okay, because he's pretending this is his birthday, and they're showing the movie. So everybody's laughing in the audience, and they're all laughing at Trump because he's like, Trump, you're all about conspiracy theories, and he names off a whole bunch of them about the moon landing, and he actually mentions where is Trump's people, think that Trump wants to know where Tupac and Biggie is. Okay, so he mentions the rappers. Then he starts to make fun of his apprentice show called Raising the Stakes. Okay, and at this show, the teams are asked of showing the Ohama steak products in front of a live audience and coming up with the Ohama steak variety pack to sell. Okay, so this is all, he mentions this. And Meatloaf is one of the contestants, and one of the rappers, Lil Jon, okay, is also a contestant. Now, I believe he is with Diddy as well. Okay, he signed with Diddy. So Obama's making fun of him that, that Trump is like doing TV shows and, these are his guests, like they're like, they're nobodies, right? And then he makes fun of what the White House would look like if Trump was running it. And it's all glitzed out, he makes like a comic strip thing. So if you can find that, just go, check out Obama's roasting of Trump. And I'm sure that all happened in 2011, I believe. So that inspired, Trump to run because like he was making fun of him and saying like, imagine if Trump was in the White House. I guess they were already talking about Trump. Like Obama knew that Trump was going to eventually run back then. And so he wanted to humiliate him and make him look like an idiot before anything got off the ground, right? So now the whole Tupac thing, right, is that who does Tupac represent in this? I believe he represents the Black Jesus. He people believe that he was the Black Jesus. Okay, so now he died on September 13th. Okay, so Doctor Death Tupac is alive after faking his own autopsy. A picture of coroner's report claims conspiracy theorists. Okay, so he got shot on September 7th, was in the hospital for 6 days on the 7 days, and then he died, but did he just, exit the hospital, I mean, like with a fake coroner report, because they were doing that all the time. Now this is big, Notorious Big, who also died, right? Probably, because he was trying to get his records labels, back to his ownership. Okay. Now this is his girlfriend or his wife, and Tupac had taken a picture at the time to get upset him, with her, to try to get him mad. And they have it all through these dish raps where they attack each other and all the lyrics and everything. Oh yeah, so this is the picture that Obama had put up at the roasting of Trump. I guess they're saying, oh, he's got girls there. Oh, these are the two girls. This is probably representing Stormy Daniels and the other woman that's just come forward, right, recently. And then why do they have 732 here? I'm not sure why that's there. We'll have to look into that a bit more. But anyhow, it's pretty funny. So President Trump calls on Cuba to return Tupac Shakur's godmother, Asasta Shakur, to the US. So he is involved with Tupac, okay? Like he's obviously looking after Tupac's family because, he knew that Tupac was trying to expose the S trafficking. Okay, so she was convicted to death in the New Jersey trooper Werner Pfister case, I guess, in 1977 after he was killed during a gunfight during a traffic stop. She was sentenced to life in prison, but escaped and was granted asylum by the Cuban leader Fidel Castro. Okay, so wow. The timing of Trump's speech, coincidentally, or may not be coincidentally, happened on the day of the nationwide release of Tupac Shakur's biopic, All Eyes on Me. Okay, so this was released after he passed away. Yeah, so there's a connection there. Yeah, there's a connection there. Okay. So, All Eyes on Me premiered on June 14th, Trump's birthday. And then it was released in the United States 2 days later at Tupac's birthday. So Tupac was born 2 days after Trump. This is in the Silver Gate, right? On the left horn of Taurus. People want to say they're Geminis, but in real life, looking up at the sky, not pretending what the sky is in tropical, actually sidereal astrology, when you look up at the sky, in this time, in this reality, where the sun is. Okay, it was in Taurus when they were both born. Now, this is interesting. Coming up the day before the election, November 4th, that's next Monday, this guy, Dwayne Keefe D. Davis, is on trial for killing Tupac. It's been like how many years now? Like 1996 he died? And they finally found the guy that supposedly shot at him. And now all of a sudden he's going to trial and going to jail, right? So it's like everything is being exposed. So this is where I was like almost fell off my chair. So the Don, who do we know is the Don? Donald Trump, kill Illuminati, okay? Because this is his album that he was working on right before he died, and this was the artwork on the album. So it's all about the cross, okay? This is what I want to get into. This is all about the path that Jesus walked, okay, in Jerusalem, and the 7-day theory. Okay, the 7-day theory was because he, was 7 days in the hospital, 6 to 7 days, So And then they say on here, in no way is this portrait an expression of disrespect to Jesus Christ, Machiavelli. So he decides to change his name to Machiavelli. If you know who Machiavelli is, Machiavelli was all tied into the Medicis during that time period in the 1500s. And he had written a book called Prince. And it wouldn't surprise me that Prince got his name from that book as well. Okay. Because Prince was also trying to expose the the criminality of how the artists were being treated with their contracts, right? So the album's final single is called Hail Mary. You know that I'm always talking about, it's all about the Virgin Mary, right? And that's Virgo, right? So, yep, that was his song. And when he performed at Coachella, and he sang that song. He performed as what's it called, a hologram. But there's people talking on the internet saying it wasn't a hologram; it was really him. There's a video of explaining how they did it, and he's behind a plexiglass, and it's really him performing. And Snoop is on there with them, and Snoop can't get near too close to him because he's like behind this platform of plexiglass so he doesn't get shot. But it definitely looks real to me. Like it doesn't look like a hologram. I can't imagine that they had the technology to do that back in 2012 when he did it. So yeah, so this is Machiavelli's The Prince book that gave the name, and it's basically learning how to work within the system to be a good leader, a good king, to make the things you have to do. Now, Machiavelli is considered like a bad guy because he's willing to do whatever it takes to reach the end, right? So you can be immoral as long as it has a moral intent in the long run. So a lot of believers think that that's a wrong way of thinking. But supposedly he read the book when he was in jail the first time he was put in jail. Um, okay, so the book cover of The Prince, Tupac saw very similar West Coast gang because he was on the West Coast, Diddy's on the East Coast. And a hand signal that Tupac always does is the W. But I'm pretty sure that W is really for the Queen of Heaven, right? Because that's the constellation Cassiopeia, the Queen of Heaven is a W in the sky. So I'm pretty sure that has a connotation to that as well. So here's the book. They're saying there was a W on the cover. The only one book I saw that had the W is here, kind of like the crown of Christ, or the crown of the king, which is Christ. That's the only W I found on that book. So here's Tupac. They got money for the war, but can't feed the poor, because he was like Jesus, right? He didn't believe in, um, people abusing their wealth and not helping the people that needed help. Okay, because his mom was part of the Black Panthers, right? So they fought hard and they got put in jail, and he took up that torch. So here's Black Jesus is the sixth song in Tupac's song of double platinum album, Still I Rise. Well, some people have taken Tupac literally and believe he is referring to himself as Black Jesus in the first verse, where he writes, God gave me these commandments. The world is scandalous. Blast it, thy holy high. Baptize the evil spirits. Wise no longer blinded. Watch me shine. Trick. Which one of y'all want to feel the degrees? Bitches freeze facing Black Jesus. And then he did an interview here with the Yummy. Now, remember Justin Bieber did a song called Yummy? They're pretending it's all about food. No, it's not. It's about this boy, youth violence. He got shot at 10 years old. He was part of a gang. And then I'm trying to remember the story here. He ended up wanting to tell the truth, and then they shot him. Okay, so young violence, in the Black community. And now I want to go into the word of Tupac, the meaning of that, and where that comes from. It's the Aztec Mexican leader. There was a whole family of Tupac descendants, and the first time they killed him, and the second time when the family came back and they also named him Tupac, they ended up chopping him up into pieces, dragging him with a horse, and the whole 9 yards, and putting his head on in the towns. So they executed him. But it means the shining, the royal, the snake. Okay, that's the meaning of the word Tupac Amaru, the last Inca king. Okay, not the Aztec, the Inca. So this is really important. He rides the white horse like Jesus. Okay, painting of Tupac Amaru 2. There was number one, and then number 2. Okay, Indigenous rebellion. So this is all about the indigenous taking back their rights. Okay, because they've been suppressed and they've been trafficked, and it's just horrific what's happened to them. Right, all out of greed and trying to keep the frequency low on the planet instead of working with nature and helping each other and being in balance. It's all about greed and abusing children. It's just nuts where we're at, the lowest form of humanity. So yeah, and then this ties to November 4th again. After a banquet attended by both Tupac Amaru and Governor Arriaga, the immediate cause of the rebellion lay grievances caused by a series of modernization reforms of colonial administration. So that date comes up, right? Because they're going to sentence the guy that killed Tupac on November 4th. So yeah, so it's all crazy. And then yeah, they even killed his son, Tupac, and yeah, they threw his body part. Yeah, not good. So now, why did I put this here? Okay, this is a quote about it. Freedom over the land must return, and they won't be able to kill him. Okay, so they will want to kill him, but they won't be able to. Okay, so this why I think Tupac, faked his death. Okay, and if you go on September 13th in history, when you pull up, he's not showing that he died on September 13th. They don't put his, some other places they do put him on September 13th, but no, they don't have it on the history website. So yeah, died September 13, 1996 at the age 25 in Las Vegas, Nevada. He was at a fight with Mike Tyson. Now, what's crazy is Ready to Die. This is Notorious Big's release of his song was September 13th. This was 2 years prior. So Ready to Die, they go, and then he dies supposedly on September 13th. They shot him on September 7th or whatever, and then so it's all crazy. It's all like tied, right? So the album features productions of Bad Boy founder Sean Puffy Combs. This is P Diddy, right? He keeps changing his name all the time. So Tupac final interview, when he was at the fight of Mike Tyson, he was wearing this gold chain with an angel on it, that he actually had created, the Black Angel, and then also he's got a gold shirt on, like he's the golden boy, right? And everybody says, oh, this was the last picture of Tupac. Tupac Shakur, the day he was shot in Las Vegas, September 7th, on the fateful Saturday morning of September 7th. Tupac Shakur, along with his cousin and his fiancee, Kadira Jones, drove from his home to Calabasas, California to Las Vegas, Nevada. It was a last-minute trip to meet up with Serge Knight and attend Mike Tyson and Bruce Sheldon fight. And here, this is the medallion that he has on his neck. It's called Euphasia. So it's a combination of the word euphoria and fantasia. And there's music coming out. Okay, so out of his gun. He's not going to fight with bullets. He's going to fight with music, right? With lyrics, with words. Okay, upon Tupac's release from prison, he started his own company called Euphasia. Euphasia is a word Tupac created in combining the words. Yeah, he said the name represented the ultimate freedom, personal choice. The logo he designed for his company was a black angel holding a machine gun instead of bullets, shooting out keys. Yep. And then his new name as Machiavelli, right? So a black winged angel with a halo over its head. Okay. And then I want to go into some of his tattoo meanings. He has thug life, right? Tattoo on his belly. And that means the hate you give little infants fucks everyone. Okay. So, like, that's crazy. That's crazy. Okay. So it was all about the little kids. This is why he was so disgusted. Then on his back, he has a cross with the Exodus 1831. Okay. And then he has a crown up on his neck there. And now this was all to do with the rebellion in August 21st, 1831 in Virginia, 2-day rebellion of slaves to free the blacks. The rebellion caused the death of approximately 60 white men, women, and children. So they went, the slaves went in and started killing all the white people. And then whites used a number of ways to suppress the uprising, killing approximately 120 blacks. So there you go. It was like a killing frenzy. So on October 30th, 1831, a farmer named Benjamin Phelps discovered Turner holding in Southampton County. This is because Turner was the guy that created the rebellion. And in a depression in the earth created by a large fallen tree covered by fence rails. Approximately 1 p.m. on October 31st. This is Halloween. This is why this is all part of this. Turner arrived at prison in Jerusalem. Okay, so Jerusalem, I guess it is in Virginia. I'm not sure where it is, but yeah. So it's like, it's just crazy. And then dozens of suspect rebels were tried by courts specially conveyed for the rebellion. Turner was tried on November 5th. There we go, November 5th, the day of the election, conspiring to rebel and making insurrection, and was convicted and sentenced to death. Okay, yeah, Jerusalem, Virginia. And Turner was hanged on November 11th. Remember, November 11th. Not, yeah, but there's a saying, there's a poem. Remember the 5th of November. It goes way back. It goes way, way back to the 1600s. Okay, and I'll get back to that. Yeah, this is what it is, that tattoo again. And then he has a blasphemy lyrics. Unless the Lord does not return in coming 7 days, we'll see the next time here on This Week in Bible Prophecy. Okay, so he has to, the Lord is going to return in the coming 7 days by accepting Jesus Christ as our personal Lord and Savior. Okay, for my life and your life. So, yeah, 7 days of returning of Jesus. He gets born again. So in 1663, on September 13th, first serious slave conspiracy in colonial America occurs in Virginia. So there's another slave conspiracy that happens on September 13th, back in 1663. So this was way before that. So let's look at September 13th. This is the date that I've kind of discovered how everything's connected to Jerusalem, Francis de Assisi, St. Francis, and the importance of that, because he saw a stigmata after a vision while praying on the Mount La Verna. Now, what happened was he received 5 wounds. Now, Tupac, in an interview when he got shot 5 times, when P. Diddy and Notorious Big was upstairs recording, somebody came downstairs in the hotel and shot Tupac 5 times. That was his first attempted suicide. So I guess when he got, attempted suicide the second time, he decided to exit the stage, right? That's my theory of it. So, and that's all the time that Lady Diana kind of, this is all late 90s, and then JFK Jr., they all kind of, they just left this realm. Okay, but I think it was all part of knowing that they had a bounty on their heads, right? So the Temple of Jupiter, this is really important because it's all to do with the Capitol Hill. The Capitoline Hill is dedicated on the Ides of September, September 13th. Some people say it's 15th, but it's really September 13th of the Ides of September. Then the Church of the Holy Scepter is consecrated in Jerusalem. This is where Jesus ascended, and where they created a church around him, the resurrection. And this was in 335. And then 1224, St. Francis of Assisi, the Franciscan order was created by him. And he sees a vision then that he got 5 wounds. Okay. So he's an environmentalist, and the Franciscan order they're pious to poverty. They don't like greed. Okay. And they like to connect with nature. When they first started coming into Montreal and converting the natives at Kanawaki, they were like allowing the natives to stay connected to nature. They weren't making them at first come and stay on reservations. They were allowing them to be free in nature. But then, the Jesuits took over the Franciscan order, and that's when they started to round them up. Okay, so let's look at the sky in 509 when the temple was built of Jupiter, Capitoline Hill. Venus is on Zavijaba. Now the sun is here on no, September 13th. Back in those days, the sun was on the Spica star. Okay, the Spica star is supposedly the wheat, the spike of wheat that she holds in her left hand. This is the spring triangle that goes over to Leo, and this is the Washington Monument. This is why Pennsylvania Avenue in Washington, it's all on triangle. It's the spring triangle in the sky. But Mercury's there, Venus is there, Mars is there, and Jupiter is here on the justice, right? The justice of the scales. We see this in all the court buildings. They always have the scales. It's, the higher mind is ruled by Jupiter, and you have to have the balance. And so, yeah, the Holy Scepter is church, the consecration of the church. This is the spring triangle I was explaining. They have Mercury on the Spica star. Sun is starting to move forward here by this date. Well, falling backwards because it doesn't quite get around to the same location it was back in those days. That's why, tropical astrology is following from way back then. It's not following where the sun is now because the sun loses a degree every 72 years. It slides backwards. So Spica star had Mercury. The Regulus star, which is the Capitol Hill building, had Venus, okay, on the consecration of the Holy Scepter Church. Now, this is interesting. Who has an eagle on their abdomen and a cross on their chest? Yeah, Justin Bieber. Okay, this is all tied to this. Right there, the eagle and the cross. Okay. Now, this all ties to the Holy Scepter, the Church of Resurrection, right? And the Station of the Cross. The Station of the Cross is the path that Jesus took as he entered Jerusalem, and they made him, carry the cross. And there's 14 stations, similar to 14 pieces of Osiris, right? In pre-Egyptian antiquity. So the Stations of the Cross, the Way of the Cross, also known as the Way of the Sorrows. Tupac had the cross, and Justin Bieber has the cross. It's all part of this, okay? Commonly, a series of 14 images will be arranged in a number order along the path. So you can go there and do the pilgrimage and walk this path for repentance and the mortification of flesh, that you want to be born again. And people do it during Easter because, that's when he was supposed to have passed, right? It's called the Via Dolorosa, the sorrowful way, the way of suffering, okay? And it falls on the 3 falls he falls down, okay, during these 14 stations. Jesus falls 3 times. One is on the 3rd station, the 7th station, and the 9th station. Well, I'm kind of seeing it through astrology. The 3rd house is ruled by Mercury. The 7th house is ruled by Venus, Libra. This is Gemini, 3rd house. Venus rules the 7th house of Libra, which is justice. And then Jupiter rules the ninth house of the higher mind. So they kind of attributed Mercury, Venus, and Jupiter all to this. And let's go, that's the path. So here I'm showing you what happened here. Originally, they only had 7, but then they increased them to 14. But I think they're the 12 houses of the zodiac. Jesus is condemned to death. That's the first house of self, right? Aries. Okay, it's war. Jesus takes up the cross. That's the Taurus, the cross, the bull. It's like you're stuck in the labyrinth. You're stuck here, right? The labyrinth is Taurus. So Jesus falls for the first time is the third. That's Gemini, Mercury, communication. Jesus meets his mother. That's the house of family. Fourth house, Cancer. Simon of Cyrene helps Jesus carry the cross. Fifth house, he has a friend helping. That's Leo, somebody with a big heart. Veronica wipes his face of Jesus. Well, that would be Virgo. Virgo, Veronica wipes his face. That's the sixth house of, was called slavery at one point, but it's like sixth house has to do with health and also to do with service. Okay? So seventh house is relationship. Jesus falls for the second time. Jesus meets the woman of Jerusalem, eighth house, because this is the house of sexuality, eighth house ruled by Scorpio. Ninth house, Jesus falls for the third time. That's Jupiter, higher mind, like I explained before. Jesus is stripped of his garments, so no robes. That's 10th house, that's Capricorn. He's the devil and basically makes you work and it's your legacy. So the vision of the robes. Jesus is nailed to the cross. That's an Aquarius. Okay, you're nailed. And then Jesus dies on the cross. That would be the 12th house, the dark night of the soul, ruled by Jupiter and Neptune. But then the other two is when he's taken down off the cross. Okay. So yeah, it's called the way of the light. So here we're getting into the Franciscan custody of the Holy Land. So the Franciscans by St. Francis de Assisi got permission to guide and the instructions and care of the Latin pilgrims, as well as within guardianship, maintenance, and defense of the rituals of the Catholic shrines of the Holy Land. So they were in charge of all this. Beginning around 1350, Franciscan friars conducted official tours to Via Dolorosa, from the Holy Scepter to the House of Palat. Okay, so he's the one that decided to kill him. So it was like they did it kind of backwards. The route was not reversed until 1517, when the Franciscans began to follow the events of the Jesus Passions chronologically, setting out from the House of Pilat and ending with the crucifixion at Golgotha. So there you go. It's all the path. Now, why is this so important? It has to do with the election because of this man, okay? Robert F. Kennedy. Do you know what F stands for? Francis. Okay. And why is this so important? Because he wrote a book about St. Francis de Assisi, The Life of Joy. It's a children's book. So he knows all about him because he's named after him. And I'm assuming John F. Kennedy was also named after him. Okay, because they're not supposed to be greedy, right? They're supposed to be kind and working with the environment. Well, what does Robert F. Kennedy do? He's an environmentalist. Like that's all he talks about in health of people. And, he has degrees in environmental um, activism and everything. This book is he adopted the life of an itinerant preacher and made it his mission to teach about the sanctuary of all life on earth, becoming an advocate of animals' rights and environmentalist in the time when even human life often had little value. He gave up all his wealth and earthly possessions and turned away from his life of privilege to live the outcast in society. That's our role. Right? That is our role. We are not supposed to be part of this, greedy environment. We're supposed to be content with just being at peace and living in nature. St. Francis de Assisi is a patron saint of Robert F. Kennedy Jr., a father, a devout Roman Catholic, a crusader of clean air and water, an advocate of public health, a member of the famous family famous for its dedication to the American people. Kennedy has chosen to retell the saint's classic tales, hoping to teach an important message to children around the world. It's got the white dove. There you go. The life of joy. So yeah, that's crazy, eh? I think that's nuts. So that's what it's all about. So September 13th. Now this was, oh, I'm just gonna go back here. Yeah. So he had this vision, right? And the vision had Mercury on Spica and Venus on Regulus. These are the fixed stars in the sky. Right? And Arcturus is the White House. White House, Washington Monument, Capitol building. Okay, so I find that interesting that when they built the Temple of Jupiter, Mercury was there and Venus was here, and then also when he had his vision, St. Francis, they were also in the same location. Spica meaning spiked, pointy, okay, sharp, resembling a spike of ear or grain. But I don't think it's a spike of ear or grain. I think it's a spike of the palm, right? Because palms have spikes. And Jesus, when he walked into Jerusalem, everybody had a palm in their hand. And what's so weird, in my sugar shack, when I was renovating it, I noticed there was palms put in the rafters from the French Roman Catholics that had owned my property. And I left them there because I didn't know what they were. And then somebody told me what they were. And I was like, no way. So I think the palm is super important to all of this. So here they're talking about Saint Francis had his sacred wounds from our Lord's own body. He received them on his hands, feet, and his side. But they're saying here it's September 14th. But in the history, what happened on this day, they have it at September 13th. So they do that a lot. They kind of like play around with the dates. Never was a saint more beautifully loved by Jesus than Saint Francis de Assisi. Okay, so the wounds Jesus gave him stayed in his hands, feet, and side and continually bled for 2 more years until he died in 1226. So wow, so he was inflicted with wounds. Yeah, it's crazy. So here I wanted to go over why this is the poem from Remember the 5th of November when the election is happening. This is from Guy Fawkes Night. Now, my mother used to talk about Guy Fawkes all the time, but I never really understood the history of it. And I did go over it a little bit in my book because I knew this was really important because of it happened at Whitehall. The reason that I got into this whole thing about Guy Fawkes and him trying to blow up the Parliament buildings in England, they're called Whitehall. The reason was because Lafayette, because it was the French that helped the Patriots win against the British. They came with their fleet and they helped them on the last battle there in Virginia, right? So in Yorktown, that was all part of this whole thing with Guy Fawkes, okay, because he wanted the Catholics to be in charge and not the Protestants. So Guy Fawkes is a really important part of this because Whitehall is the last place when Lafayette came back to do his grand tour because he helped George Washington. He ended up doing a whole tour through the United States. I think it took him a few months. And his last location, he went down the Phoenix, down the Lake Champlain to Whitehall. And Whitehall is considered where the US Navy started, on the bottom of Lake Champlain there. Um, so that is crazy. Okay. So that's what brought me all to understanding Guy Fawkes Day, because it's all about him trying to blow up um, the English Parliament that had turned Protestant, and he wanted the Catholics and the Stuarts to get back in power. Okay. So yeah, so what's weird is I never knew this. The anonymous mask is really Guy Fawkes. It's a mask of Guy Fawkes. So I was just like blown away by that. I was just like, what? This is crazy. So the reason November 5th is so important is because Back to the Future, they use November 5th as the date that changes everything. Of course, it's 1955, but it's still November 5th, right? So that's super important. So here we have this election happening on November 5th. And when it was in Back to the Future, it's saying it was Marty initially went back to it, and it was his 33rd birthday. We know 33 Masons, 33 vertebrae in your spine. Jesus died at 33. It's all, sacred, right? And I wanted to check, yeah, I think I was doing some math here from this year to 1955 to this year. It's 69 years, right? So that's important too. 69 is basically the logo of Cancer, the fourth house, which is all tied to do with your family and your not just your family now, but your ancestors and the memory of your ancestors. It's all tied to 69. So yeah, yin and yang symbol. So yeah, that was weird that, Back to the Future. So then, okay, so then I did a little dig on the Back to the Future on why this came up, because one of my supporters actually sent me some info about the two paintings that come up in this scene. Well, she was actually talking about the Van Gogh painting at the end. It's a self-portrait of Van Gogh, and this is a Renoir. Um, and I'm going to go into why this is important, because it's tied to Jesus. Okay, and it really is tied to the 5 wounds again. Okay, so let's hang in there with me while I get through this. So yeah, this location is called the Moulin de la Galette, which is like a bread or a waffle. This is where the Debray family acquired 2 mills back in 1809 for producing flour. Okay, and it was built in 1717. Now, during the Napoleonic Wars in 1814, okay, so they got it in 1809, and in 1814, 5 years later, there was a siege in Paris. The 3 Debray men lost their lives defending the windmill against the Cossacks. The miller was killed and nailed to the wings of the windmill. So he was like, that's a cross, right? So they stuck him on there and they nailed him there like Jesus. Okay, so then yeah, they were attacked, and 20,000 Prussian soldiers during the siege. Debray was killed, Pierre Charles was killed and nailed to the wings of the windmill. A mass grave for those killed during the siege was made just steps away from the Moulin de la Galette. Okay, so this painting, they ended up trying to change, I guess, the energy there, and they decided to create dancing. And then that they referred to all that to dancing dedicated to the Greek muse Chalciope. And that's one of the muses. And I don't know if you remember, what's her name? Olivia Newton-John, when she was in the movie, oh, what's it called? Xanadu. And there's a scene there where there was the 9 muses and they're all dancing. It's one of her music videos. I think it's called Staying Alive, not Staying Alive, but I'm Alive. I think it's I'm Alive. And she is actually this muse that does the dancing. Okay, so yeah, it's just crazy. So That's all to do with the cross again. Okay. So getting pinned on the cross. So what I'm saying is everything goes back to the cross. Okay. So in this scene, Needles, which is, you know, Douglas J. Needles. So it's instead of Donald J. Trump, it's Needles because the needles came out in Trump's administration, right? When COVID hit. So that is funny. And then he's trying to get him to do a scam, and he's like, no, I can't, I'll get fired, And then the guy, his boss, who is actually looks like he's Asian, says, I heard you talking to Needles. I know you were talking to him, so you're fired. Now, this came out way before The Apprentice, where Trump was using that phrase. So you're fired all came back from Back to the Future. And I'm sure it's tied to the scene, right? So then, you're fired keeps spitting out everywhere. And then they show Van Gogh at the end. And, Van Gogh, what happened to him? He had a missing ear. This is what my supporters said to me. She says, "Oh yeah." I said, "Why Van Gogh? What's the importance of that?" And then she's like, "Oh, he has a missing ear." And I forgot to put this in. Um, Tupac did a poem about Starry, Starry Night with Van Gogh. Okay, so this is what it's like. I'm like, what? It's just crazy how it all is interwoven. Okay, it's just a story. Okay, now I don't know if you guys remember playing Masterpiece. This was the one I had when I was a kid. Um, and these, I think, were the original paintings for that version. It was 1970. But I think the next edition, they brought Van Gogh into that. So, like, that's what I'm saying. This whole reality is like a masterpiece. It's really like, it's all like, just like programmed. It's like it's nuts how these events keep reoccurring on certain dates when the sky is doing certain things. So September 13th is also when Elton John released Candle in the Wind for Diana, Princess of Wales. Okay, so that was a huge song like that, after she had just, passed away, right? So this is a year after Tupac had passed away. And then Mother Teresa, who is all to do with, she's like the mother, like in a way, Mary, Mother Mary. But Mother Teresa had a state funeral on this day as well. Okay. And it actually is um, the day of sorrows for the path of the cross, is September 13th, where Mary cries with Jesus on the cross. Okay, so and then Ready to Die, I explained this before, Notorious Big had released that, right? So these are all little tidbits here. September 13th, Call It Stormy Monday. Now, I don't know this, I'm like, okay, Stormy Monday, that sounds like Stormy Daniels, right? I'm like, what? So here's the lyrics. They call it Stormy Monday, but Tuesday's just as bad. Yes, they call it Stormy Monday. Monday's worse, Thursday's also sad. Yes, the eagle flies on Friday, and Saturday I go out to play. Yes, the eagle flies on Saturday. Sunday I go to church, then I kneel down and pray. Lord have mercy, Lord have mercy on me. Lord have mercy on me. My heart's in misery. Crazy about you, baby. Yes, send her back to me. But yeah, it's just nuts. This is T-Bone Walker. So it's all to do with the Lord, but Stormy Monday, I saw, I was like, okay, let's go dig her out. So there's Stormy Daniels, with her lawsuit against him, and she's a porn star, stripper. And let's see what this all comes out to. Yeah, Daniel. In Hebrew means God is my judge, related to Dan, he who judges. So it's like Monday is the day of judgment. That's the way I see this. It's like her name's Stormy Daniels, but Stormy Monday, is all about the Lord, and then we're talking about God is a judge. And it makes sense to me that Monday would be the day of judgment because it's Moon Day. Everything's about the moon, and you're being judged by the moon of your ability to remember, right? If you don't have the ability to remember your ancestral's trauma, like you can't you don't have the ability to go to the ley lines and connect with your ancestors and learn from them, and you don't have that ability to meditate and get that info, you're kind of like stuck in the loop, you know? So you're not evolving enough to realize that history is affecting your now, right? And people don't want to learn history, but this is what's so important, because if you don't know what's gone on in the past, you don't know what's repeating. So then you can't even acknowledge that it's like a repetitive loop. You're just like thinking it's all random. Okay, so September 13th and next year, we don't have Mercury and Venus on the Spica star and the Regulus star. This is the King star. This is obviously, I think, is related to the palm. She's holding a palm, not a. There's a bandage that you can wrap your thumb with a splint. It's called a spica splint because she's holding that palm leaf, I believe, not a wheat leaf, in her hand with her thumb. Okay, so anyhow, this is the Washington Monument. I couldn't find any many placements of Mars, I mean, sorry, Mercury and Venus on these stars in the spring triangle, but I did find Mars, and it makes sense to me. Mercury is in conjunct with the sun because this is your mind, right? And Venus is about love. So that has to do with the portal that goes out through the Capitol building. There's a portal that George Washington sits on, and you need to have love in your heart to get through that portal. And Mars is to do with yourself, right? It's also the energy that starts in your Kundalini from your hips through Scorpio, the eighth house. And then it rises up your torso to Mars in the first house, the house of self, which is ruled by your crown, right? So now the crown is coming onto the spike with the palm. You know, it's you got the crown and the palm leaf with Jesus. This is what I'm seeing here. And so I thought that was kind of cool. And Jupiter is on the Gemini twin Pollux to ascend, right? So there's ascension going on there with Jupiter there, and the moon is in the Silver Gate. This is all happening next year on September 13th. And I went around to look and see like when other dates were happening with these kind of placements with, you know, planets on these two stars with the sun in between. Mercury again is close to the sun on Zavi Java here. This is in 2032. Mars is now on the Regulus star, and Venus is close to Spica. So that I found interesting. And Juno is there because the Capitoline Hill is ruled by Juno, Jupiter, and Minerva. So I was like, oh, I wonder where Juno is at this time. And I also wanted to see where the moon was in 2032. And Jupiter is in his own house of the higher mind, and the moon is there in the Golden Gate. So this, to me, is the most significant September 13th in our near future. I checked out 2033. We got kind of like a Mercury close to Spica and a Venus close to Regulus. This might be more important because it's it's mirroring when the capital Lean Hill, the temple of Jupiter, sorry, was made, and also when the Holy Church of the Holy Scepter was also consecrated there. So maybe this date is more important. But 232 would align to Skull and Bones number. I'm just playing around with the dates, checking them out. And yeah, so these dates, September 13th is the 256th day of the year. I always look at numbers like 2 times 5 plus 6, it'd be 22, right? So that's the Fool card, that's the way out. And there's 109 days left. You always take the 0 out in Gematria, and it brings you 19, which is also the moon cycle. The moon has a metonic cycle of every 19 years. It ends up being in the same location in the same phase. in the sky. So, and 19 is affiliated with Jesus, right? So interesting. 9, September 13th, 9 times 13 is 117. So it's like the number 17 again. And yeah, I wanted to see if it was the September 13th was falling on a Monday. And it is in 2032, Skull and Bones number. 2027, it's also on a Monday, and 2038, big changes, like, it's not often that it does. Now, I wanted to bring this back into the American Revolution when George Washington ended up taking over Yorktown. And this was all part of, conquering Western Quebec. Washington prevented the British Army from breaking out of New York City, while militia under George Roger Clark conquered Western Quebec. Like that's sad, you know. I would love Quebec to be part of the United States, because literally it's what they were helping each other, One shouldn't have gone to the English and the other be free, or supposedly free until the Federal Reserve took over. But, the whole Constitution, the only free country in the world, supported by Francophone settlers and their Indian allies, they were trying to fight the British. They got in through Canada, right? That's how they kind of took over, well, tried to fight the Patriots. So the campaign was initially successful, with the British capture of Charleston being a major setback for Southern Patriots. However, the Franco-American force surrounded the British Army at Yorktown, and their surrender in October effectively ended fighting in America. So it took a long time, like from 1776 until 1781 to actually get rid of them from coming over here and fighting. So on September 13th of that year, prior to them winning, Venus is on Spica, and Mercury is close to the sun, but, it's not over here, but it's, it is on one side and it's flanking the sun. Sometimes Mercury could be here with Venus, or, behind the sun, or like in front of the sun or behind the sun, because the sun's traveling this way in the sky through the zodiac. But the fact that they're flanking is relevant. At this time, Uranus is up here in Gemini, and Minerva's there. So she's wisdom. She's also Athena. Athena and Minerva are the same character. Saturn is in Aquarius. Oh no, sorry, Saturn is in Ophiuchus here, just above Scorpio. And 5 days after the battle ended on October 24th, 1781, the British fleet sent by Clinton to rescue the British Army arrived. So they were 5 days late, the British fleet. The fleet picked up several provincials who had escaped on October 18th. And they informed Admiral Thomas Graves that they had believed Cornwallis had surrendered. So Graves picked up several more provincials along the coast, and they confirmed this fact. Graves sighted the French fleet, so he finally sees the French fleet, but chose to leave because he was outnumbered by 9 ships, and thus he was sent back to New York. 9, the number 9, right? It's always the higher mind is the number 9. It's the 9th house. And on September 3rd, 1783, formally ending the war, the Treaty of Paris. So it's even Treaty of Paris. It has all to do with the French. Oh yeah, and I wanted to go back here to show you that Benjamin Franklin had made these coins for that celebration of the American ending of the American Revolution. And the coin, I'm going to take a closer look here. They say they observe the metal features the goddess Liberty. Okay, beside her is a pole adorned with a Frisian cap. So she has, oh, this is here when she has the cap on with the pole. Okay. The reverse features an infant Hercules. So this is the baby. This is the newborn, the USA, Hercules that does his 12 labors to find his golden apple, right? Um, the reverse features the infant Hercules representing the United States. And this is really important. I did this all in my book. Okay, the whole um, understanding where the tree is that he has to go steal the apples from in the sky. And now I understand that Hercules is the United States, okay, from this coin. So that is like, I didn't put that in my book because I didn't know, but I definitely knew the labors of Hercules was super important, and getting that apples off the tree and fighting the dragon to get it is super important. Okay, so the United States being attacked by the lion, because the lion represents UK, right? And the infant who is shown strangling two snakes. So, two snakes is the one that goes up your body, and then the other one that comes down. It's the Holy Spirit coming down. It's like, one energy goes up and one comes down. It's like your electrical, right? So you're like a battery. So when you ground, the energy has to go up and it has to come down the body. And he's not strangling the snakes, he's controlling them. Okay, so that you can control your own energy, and is being protected by Athena, who represents France. Well, Athena is Minerva, and Minerva is to do with, her symbolism is the owl, and she's has to do with wisdom. Okay, so that's France. Okay, so the baby is the United States and Minerva is France. The reverse includes the motto non sine dis, I'm going to scrap this, animussus infant. It's Latin, okay? And this is from Horace's Ode, the Descendo Clolios. That means in a way, falling sky. It's an ode. And they're saying that the translation of this is the infant is not bold without the aid of the gods. I actually did some, research to find out what poem it was. It's Ode 3-4, so book 3, poem 4. And this is it in Latin, and there's the phrase here. So I wanted to take this whole phrase, the whole translation there, kind of get a feel of what they're saying. And actually, I did it. I did do that. Yeah, here it is. It's right here. That translation of that part of the poem, let's read this, that I might sleep safely from the black body of the viper and the bear, and that the spirited child, that's who the child is of the United States, it's the spirited child, might be pressed with the sacred laurel and I think it says a reef. Yeah, sorry, I'm gonna go back here. The laurel and the myrtle. No, it didn't say a reef, but the laurel is what the reef around your head is made of. And the myrtle, not without a push. Okay, so this is a really weird translation. The spirited child might be pressed with sacred laurel and myrtle, not without a push. So it's kind of coded, the poem. Yeah, and descending from the sky. This is another poem where this word is used, descending from the sky. It's not falling from the sky. And say to Calliope, queen of the long flute, play the melodic song of now prefer your voice, your sharp voice, and Phoebe's faithful lyre. And this is the part, are you listening? Or is the lovable five playing me crazy? The lovable five meaning Venus, right? I hear and see the pious wander through the woods, pleasant to the water and the wind. It's like the pious are just hanging out in nature. That's what I really was like, that's the whole thing. So the palm is known as the phoenix. I did a little dig on that. It's actually the Latin translation of palm is phoenix. And like I said, Lafayette, when he finished his grand tour, where everybody was coming out to greet him, and he was just in horse and buggy, he got on the Phoenix and went down the Champlain, Lake Champlain, to Whitehall, which is tied to November 5th because of the blowing up of Guy Fawkes trying to blow up the Parliament there, to set things straight, to bring it back to the Roman Catholics, which is, the French religion, right? So they didn't want the Protestants to continue running Britain. There was this battle all the time, right at that time. Like it was going back and forth if Britain was going to be, Protestant or Roman Catholic. It was like this whole fight going on, all to do with King Henry VIII and wanting to divorce Anna Boleyn, or no, no, that was his, no, sorry, Catherine. He wanted to divorce Catherine, I believe who it was, and then, he ended up marrying Anna Boleyn, but he chopped her head off too. So he just wanted a divorce, and that's how the Protestant religion was created. That's my theory on what I've figured out here and research. So in Christianity, the palm branch is associated with Jesus' triumphal entry into Jerusalem. So he comes riding in on a white horse and celebrated on Palm Sunday. Okay, so this palm, I'm really starting to believe, is what the Virgin Mary holds, because it's all tying into Jesus, right? Even in Islam, it has a meaning of victory. Okay, so it's across across the board in all religions. So yeah, I think I missed a few other things that I dug on, but anyhow, I just think it's all crazy how this is all unfolding. But I really do think this election is super important one because it ties into the pious, right? It really ties into that whole um, understanding that being spiritual or being good, it doesn't have to do with greed, right? It just has to do with a kind heart and have appreciation for nature and have a balance, try to live in harmony with that, which I do believe the Aboriginals were all doing. Unfortunately, that got taken away from them and we kind of fell into the lowest form of humanity. It didn't happen, that long ago. Like it's like we're not talking like thousands of years ago, we're talking a few hundred years ago where, this whole North America was, yes, a totally different place, right? So anyhow, I hope you're carrying the palm with you always. It's the phoenix, you could see that as the feather of the phoenix, maybe that's where the phoenix bird that's not really a real bird came from. But yeah, so I hope you have lots of anticipation for the election and keep an eye on what's happening with the rapper community because obviously they're a big part of this. And yeah, it's like all these indictments and what's going to show up with the sentencing and, who's going to snitch on who and who is at these parties, because they're saying to the lawyers that even if you um, were there and watching it and allowing it to happen, you're criminal. So yeah, these things are just all coming out, and um, so many people are talking about it on YouTube. And so yeah, that's what I believe is like going on. And I know Elon Musk had an interview with Tucker Carlson, and he had said that if Trump wins, all these lists will be exposed. So yeah, we're really following the 17th letter at this point because this is what was all predicted in that movement. So enjoy. It's quite the drama. And I hope you guys got something out of this. It is a little bit of an add-on to my book because all this stuff is so intertwined. It just keeps building on top of each other. So, the history is super important. You got to know the history of how the founding of the United States happened and, how the French were all involved and everything all that, I do think it has to be like balanced back because no way should Quebec be part of the British Empire. It just doesn't make any sense. So there's got to be a totally huge shift. We definitely have tons of hydro here, so it wouldn't surprise me if the US come a knocking one day. But anyhow, we'll have to wait and see. Take care, and I hope you're all doing well. I know this is a very hard time for a lot of people, and I wish the best, and I hope you feel peace enough to know that you're protected, you know. You don't get this far in your awakening without being protected. You have that right. So believe that you are protected, and you're here for a reason to make something a change in this world. So take care. Bye.